Tuesday. Emergencies declared in cities along the border and in the heartland, and a crowd of people waiting to walk or swim into the U.S.
Doug Lazader joins us live from Washington. Doug.
Good morning. Border Patrol agents are warning of what they're calling a tidal wave. The president is talking about chaos at the border, and all the while the numbers just keep climbing. We're now in excess of 10,000 immigrants a day crossing the border illegally. The dramatic footage we've seen shows the surge really already underway, and Fox has learned that the administration has authorized the mass release of immigrants into U.S. communities once shelters are over capacity. President Biden among those bracing for what we are likely to see in the days ahead.
We've had chaos at the border for a number of years. We have to fully fund the border security effort. The purpose of what we're doing now is making legal immigration more streamlined and moving in the direction that people know that there's a legal way to get here and not a legal way.
And despite what we're seeing, the Secretary of Homeland Security has continued to claim that the border is closed and secure.
We are taking this approach within the constraints of a broken immigration system that Congress has not fixed for more than 2 decades. When we release individuals, we release them on conditions. The vast majority will be addressed in our Border Patrol facilities and our ICE detention facilities.
Is that not a message that the border is open then to migrants?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely not.
It's a challenge or a crisis?
We call it a crisis now.
That's a question he would not answer. While the administration blames Congress, Republicans here on Capitol Hill blame the White House. They're pushing a measure today that would enhance security at the border and tighten those requirements for asylum seekers.
Go ahead, vote no. But if you won't lead, we will. If you want to take the same approach as the president, that you want to ignore a problem and say it's not happening, we won't sit back.
Now, that measure may pass the House, but Democrats in the Senate are expected to block it, and the president has already promised a veto should it reach his desk. Todd and Ashley.
Doug Lazader kicking us off. Doug, thank you. Former acting DHS Secretary Chad Wolf, on the ground in El Paso, says the U.S. would not be in this situation if we had a better leader in the White House.
The Biden administration is not really interested in solving this crisis. To solve it is to mean to bring it to a close, bring some deterrence back into the system. Instead, they simply are trying to manage this. They're trying to process more and more of these individuals into the country every single day and every single week. And so you're on the eve of Title 42. There's already a crisis here in El Paso and other places along that border. But come Thursday at midnight, you're going to see even more individuals coming, mainly single adults and mainly males. Those have been the population that the Biden administration under Title 42 have been able to push back into Mexico. You won't be able to do that anymore. Instead, they're going to be released into American communities all across this country.
Let's bring in live from the southern border, Anna Giaritelli with the Washington Examiner. She is in El Paso, Texas, and Todd Bensman, a fellow at the Center for Immigration Studies, is right across the border in Matamoros, Mexico. Thanks to the both of you for being here. Todd, we'll begin with you. What are you seeing on the other side of the border there in Mexico, less than 24 hours before Title 42 is set to expire?
Right. Well, right now, as we're speaking, there is a brand new unit of the Texas Department of Public Safety that has just been deployed to the other side. Right now, they are yelling and shouting alto, alto to a large group of immigrants who are right down here trying to cross. The Department of Public Safety is defending a long row of razor wire. And the question is what would happen if the immigrants actually climbed up and, got into contact with them. I'm told that they will be armed with pepper balls to fire or potentially fire, and that they are under orders to not let any immigrants up this riverbank. And this comes after just days and even weeks of just thousands of immigrants from this camp, very vast camp here, pouring over the border in coordination between the United States Border Patrol and the Mexican Immigration Service. The U.S. tells Mexico when to let them in, and then they'll cross in, and when to stop them, and then they'll stop them for a while. And in the meantime, Texas DPS is like, yeah, we're not having that. We're going to go ahead and get right in your way. So it'll be interesting to see how that works out.
You know, Todd, you were talking about the group of people trying to get crossed, and you can hear them yelling right now. It's 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
Is it always this active, just 24/7?
Yes, it has been 24/7. You have immigrants who are showing up at the bus station here, bus after bus, all day, all night, from other parts of Mexico. They're coming to Matamoros, they tell me, because the Biden administration is letting them in. This is the spot where if they can get across, the Biden administration is going to parole them on into, they're not going to 42 them, they're going to parole the majority of them into, New Jersey, New York, Denver, Chicago. They're moving in all over the country, our country. And so it's this incredible enticement and incentivization. And they're explaining that to me when I ask them, why are you coming here? So it's that's really what's going on here. There are other ones who are in this camp who do not plan to go until they find out after Title 42, which is midnight tonight, whether that's going to continue. So if it does continue, you'll see a whole lot more. They're telling me that if the Americans are letting them in, they are going in a big group. They're all a big mass group. Yeah.
Before we bring in Anna, I want to follow up on what you just mentioned in your previous answer. You're reporting that Biden officials are literally coordinating with Mexican officials to let migrants come over to Brownsville, Texas. It's part of a coordinated effort. It seems to me that it's all about optics, not wanting to have too many people crowd at the border at any one particular time in order to facilitate the processing in a more orderly fashion. Walk us through in more detail exactly what you've seen, exactly what you've heard.
Yes, well, I just broke the story yesterday at CIS.org, Center for Immigration Studies, that the Mexican immigration officials here are using a WhatsApp, an encrypted WhatsApp channel with the Americans, and they are coordinating groups on this side to swim over to that side. And when enough have gone over, usually 150, 100, 200, then the immigration authorities stop everybody and make them wait until they get a call from the Americans to say, okay, bring the next group. And I watched this happen all day long and all night long until I finally thought, this is strange. And I started asking around, why are you letting them in this way? And 5 different Mexican immigration officers explained, this is all part of a coordinated effort with the Americans. That is happening. Wow. And it's a bit troubling because, that shows kind of an acquiescence by the Biden administration to the illegal immigrants, to illegal immigration generally, not to block, stop, and deter, but to facilitate and accommodate in a way that is the least visible and has the least problematic political optics.
Yeah, concerning to say the least with that reporting, Todd. Anna, I want to go to you now. It's no secret that El Paso is a disaster right now. We've seen videos, we've seen pictures, we've spoken to people who live there. You were actually with ICE and CBP patrol agents on Tuesday as they were clearing people out downtown. We know that was an effort that they did, but what is Border Patrol saying their fears are, come midnight tonight when Title 42 does end, and what are you seeing at the same time?
Yeah, I spoke with the head of Border Patrol, Raul Ortiz, yesterday, just less than 12 hours ago, actually, and he made a really startling statement. He said they believe at Border Patrol the worst is over. They believe this is the surge for Title 42. It's coming before it actually ends. And he was saying he doesn't expect to hit the 18,000 apprehensions per day. We saw 11,000 apprehensions yesterday, but they think we're going to be in the clear. It's sort of like we're climaxing now, and it's going to be better than what we've seen the last few days.
Anna, when you say the worst is over, are you talking about just for El Paso?
We're talking nationwide.
All right.
Okay.
Do you agree with that? I mean, based upon what you're seeing on the ground and the just overall feel that one can get when they're reporting from a community like you are, do you agree with that statement?
You know, I think in El Paso we've seen new spots where people are crossing, groups of several hundred. There were 2,000 about 10 miles outside of town the other day, and it's probably where they're going to keep crossing. I think there's a rush to get in. I was speaking with Venezuelan migrants yesterday downtown at the church, and they were saying we wanted to get in before Title 42 ends, because then after Title 42, you get arrested at the border, you're banned for 5 years from seeking admission again through this CBP1 app. So for a lot of people, they're trying to beat the clock, which I think we sort of forgot about in the lead up to this.
So to follow up quickly, we've been basically assuming that the migrants themselves did not know about the change in law that would occur at the end of Title 42. You're basically saying, hey, these migrants know darn well the law and they know how to manipulate it, and that's why maybe they came in advance of Title 42 expiring, correct?
You know, I think it's really a mix, right? Because I don't think the average American really understands Title 42 necessarily. I think migrants that I was speaking with, they heard back in Venezuela, yeah, you can come now. We did a story on it, but they're giving out, you know, they'll take care of you. There's food, there's shelter, there's benefits to be had. They're willing to help you. And so when they came to El Paso and they're living on the street, 2,500 people that we saw this last week, it was a very different reality that they experienced. And I think it surprised them, frankly.
Yeah, I bet it did. And I'm sure it surprised the people of El Paso, too, who were dealing with it, and the business owners downtown dealing with what they were dealing with. What you said, there was 2,500 people, migrants being housed in a church. I mean, I can only imagine the strain that puts on not just Border Patrol, but the city and the people who live there who are not used to this type of situation. Todd and Anna, thank you so much for this insight this morning. We really appreciate it. And Todd, stay safe over there.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Have a good day. Now, this major sanctuary cities in the north are also bracing for a massive migrant surge. New York City and Chicago both declaring a state of emergency as New York City Mayor Eric Adams signs an executive order to loosen shelter requirements.
And the nation's capital already struggling to handle the influx. Washington, D.C. reports having no more rooms for migrant families, with hotels acting as shelters, reaching capacity. All this as officials in Philly say they were sent a bus full of migrants yesterday for the first time in months, and they're expected to see more as border encounters are set to reach record highs.
And Florida Governor Ron DeSantis signing a new bill into law, taking aim at illegal immigration, criticizing President Biden's handling of the crisis. Watch this.
We're bracing for some turbulent times ahead. And I think when you have a president who's turned a blind eye to what's gone on the border, I don't think he's even visited the border the whole time, you know, he's been in office. When you have that, you're likely to see it get a lot worse.
Yeah, and the White House said yesterday Biden has no plans to visit the border. The governor's new bill will crack down on illegal immigrants and human traffickers in the Sunshine State, making it a felony to smuggle migrants into Florida, relocating illegal immigrants to sanctuary cities out of state, and enforcing an E-Verify program to check employment eligibility.
You thought it was bad when they were going up to parents at school board meetings? Listen to this. Newly released documents revealing that Biden's DHS considered using training videos to target so-called radicalization suspects, which included suburban pro-life moms. The documents released by the America First Legal Foundation included a game-like memo sent just 8 days after President Biden took office, where workers could make real-life decisions based on fictional profiles. Here's a profile of one of those suspects. Anne, a middle-aged pro-life advocate who's described as being concerned about the welfare of children, including the unborn. To review, this was an individual the target of the DHS. The Freedom Foundation online responding to the revelations, writing, quote, "These findings add to the litany of evidence that DHS has shifted its focus from threats of foreign terrorism to monitoring and meddling in domestic U.S. citizen political beliefs." That is shocking. After almost 18 years, the key suspect in the disappearance of Natalie Holloway is facing extradition to the U.S. Holloway, as you remember, went missing in 2005 while on a high school class trip to Aruba, where she was last seen leaving a bar with the suspect, Joran van der Sloot. Sloat. In 2010, an Alabama grand jury indicted Vandersloot for charges of wire fraud and extortion after promising Holloway's family he knew where her body was. 2 years later, he was arrested, later pleading guilty to the 2010 murder of another girl, 21-year-old Stephanie Flores of Peru. That's where he's currently serving a 28-year prison sentence. In 2014, a judge legally declared Natalie Holloway dead after her body was never found. Now Holloway's family announcing Vandersloot is being extradited to the States and will be answering for those extortion and wire fraud accusations. Holloway's mother, Beth, releasing a statement yesterday saying, quote, "It has been a very long and painful journey, but the persistence of many is going to pay off. Together, we are finally getting justice for Natalie." Imagine being that mom. To another major breaking news story this morning, the FBI refusing to turn over the document that Republicans are calling proof of President Biden's overseas pay-for-play scheme.
I don't have any trust of the FBI. And the fact that the FBI refuses to work with us when we're leading a very credible investigation of public corruption of the President of the United States is very disturbing.
We'll bring you the latest on that and the new plan of action for Comer and his committee to hold the Biden family accountable.
And did you see this?
Drill, baby, drill.
News alert. The House Oversight Committee says the Biden family has received millions of dollars from its overseas business dealings, and lawmakers say the FBI is covering up the scheme.
Brooke Singman is here now to tell us more. Good morning, Brooke.
Hey, good morning. That's right. The FBI did not comply with the House Oversight Committee's subpoena, refusing to hand over a document which Republicans claim proves that Joe Biden was involved in an illegal bribery scheme with a foreign national during his time as vice president. Listen.
They could have said the document didn't exist, or they could have said that the document exists and we've looked into it and there's nothing there. But what they sent us was a patronizing letter saying that to basically trust the FBI, that if there was in fact anything there, they would take care of it. Like most conservatives in America, I don't have any trust of the FBI. And the fact that the FBI refuses to work with us when we're leading a very credible investigation of public corruption of the President of the United States is very disturbing.
The FBI responding to the subpoena in a letter to the committee, writing, quote, "It is critical to the integrity of the entire criminal justice process that the FBI avoid revealing information, including unverified or incomplete information that could harm investigations, prejudice prosecutions, or judicial proceedings, unfairly violate privacy or reputational interests, or create misimpressions in the public." Now, yesterday, Comer and other Republicans on the House Oversight Committee revealed some of their findings about the Biden family's business dealings. They say the Bidens have received millions of dollars from Chinese business partners, despite President Biden repeatedly saying this isn't true.
The Bidens have received millions of dollars from China. It is inconceivable that the president did not know it. The White House refuses to correct the president's statements, showing the president is now using the federal government to run interference for his families and his own role in these schemes.
Comer also outlining exactly which members of the Biden family were allegedly paid as part of this so-called influence peddling scheme. He says it includes Hunter Biden, President Biden's brother James and his wife, Hunter's current wife and ex-wife, and, quote, 3 children of the president's son and the president's brother. And guys, the Oversight Committee also says the Bidens received $1 million from a Romanian national who was convicted of corruption. House Judiciary Committee Chairman Jim Jordan wants to get to the bottom of this deal and the rest of the family's overseas business dealings.
First of all, Joe Biden said his family took no money from China. Looks like that's not accurate. Then he was out talking about corruption. It looks like his family was receiving money from a corrupt Romanian. The Biden family set up 20 some of these LLCs they set up, receiving millions of dollars from foreign entities. That money is then paid out to members of the Biden family, multiple members of the Biden family. And you get to the fundamental question. For what? What did they do? What was their legitimate business?
The White House has repeatedly denied Comer's claims, saying he is trying to score political points by attacking the Biden family. Ashley, Todd.
Brooke, thank you so much to break down. Let's bring in Brandy Cruz to do that. She's the host of the Undivided podcast. Brandy, big picture here. The phrase that we're hearing is influence peddling. To me, that sounds like a pretty benign phrase. Doesn't this look like good old-fashioned garden variety bribery to you?
Well, I mean, Jim Jordan said it very well, which is for what, right? And Representative James Comer had a line that, to me, tells the whole story. And he said something to the effect of, I find it hard to believe that Hunter Biden was charismatic enough that he could convince foreign nationals not only to wire him a bunch of money, but 8 of his family members a bunch of money. And he said there had to have been a return on that investment. So it's entirely appropriate for this to be looked at. It should be bipartisan. It shouldn't be something that's only being led by Republicans. I would really look forward to the day where we don't have to wonder about the criminal wrongdoings of the person who's in the White House and their family members. But again, I think it just speaks to the state of American politics that something like this that could have a direct threat to our national security is being treated in such a partisan manner.
Yeah, I think people are missing the big picture with what you said, national security to our country. The White House, they called the committee's investigation, quote, evidence-free. But also I need your thoughts on the FBI showing zero transparency with the American people with this committee. If there's nothing to hide, then why not just turn it all over?
Look, and if you're giving the FBI the benefit of the doubt, if they are investigating actively behind the scenes, then, maybe it's appropriate for them to keep some things close to the vest. But the FBI also has to realize that there is, as Jim Jordan pointed out, some caution from Americans and a little bit of disbelief from Americans in whether the FBI is conducting its duties free of political influence. And so I think that given the climate that we're in, the more transparent the FBI can be, the better. You have very serious accusations being levied against the Biden family. And if the FBI has a document that could either prove or disprove those allegations, I think it would be best for the country that they bring it forth.
And there is a way to do it without revealing confidential sources. There is always a way. The FBI just doesn't want to do it. And that speaks volumes, and that's scary. Meantime, Donald Trump covering a lot of ground at a CNN town hall last night. Take a look.
If elected president again, what is the first thing you would do to help bring down the cost to make things more affordable?
Drill, baby, drill.
You think the U.S. should default if the White House does not agree to the spending cuts Republicans are demanding?
Well, you might as well do it now because you'll do it later.
Do you agree with deploying troops to the border?
You're going to have millions of people pouring into our country right now at a level that nobody's ever seen before. They're living in Central Park in New York City. The city is being swamped. Los Angeles is being swamped. Iowa is being swamped.
How would you deal with the increasing threat posed by Vladimir Putin?
If I'm president, I will have that war settled in one day, 24 hours.
Look, Brandy, he went on CNN to win over Democrats and independents. Did he succeed?
Well, gosh, as an independent, I've never been a fan of Donald Trump. A CNN town hall isn't going to change that. I thought that, so first of all, I reject the notion that CNN shouldn't have platformed Donald Trump. There are people just losing it on Twitter that they would give him a platform. He is the former president and the leading contender on the Republican side to be the president again. And so it's just silly. I don't know if he won any. I think people are very firmly ingrained on Donald Trump at this point. Either you already like him or you don't. And I just don't see that changing very much. I will say I had to laugh. I don't know if you saw the trending hashtags on Twitter today, boycott CNN, with a bunch of people on the left saying, oh, we're not going to watch CNN anymore. And I have to wonder, where have you guys been? Because the rest of us have been boycotting CNN for a long time.
AOC kind of lost her mind on Twitter over it last night. I did catch that. But it does make you wonder if the state of the country is in just such disarray. If some independents, even Democrats, they're just tired of what they're seeing and they're like, you know what, maybe it wasn't that bad under Donald Trump. We'll see. We got a little bit of time left. Brady Cruz, thank you so much for your time this morning. We appreciate it.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Yeah, just a little bit of time, November 2024.
It's
right?
fine. Now, this Title 42 expires just about 20 hours from now, and this is going to impact every state in the country. Let that sink in. We're talking with lawmakers from New Hampshire, Arizona, and Florida to see how their states are bracing for the unprecedented surge.
Plus, Hollywood A-lister Charlize Theron
says, quote, it does not offer gender-affirming surgery to minors, nor does the health system offer gender-affirming transition care to toddlers. ECU Health offers interdisciplinary gender-affirming primary care, which includes access to both physicians and a marriage and family therapist for LGBTQ plus patients.
President Biden kicking off his re-election bid just last month, but voters in deep blue states are already considering ditching Biden for his primary challenger, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. One voter from Connecticut who is visiting Boston, summing up his thoughts on RFK Jr. as well as Biden.
Some of the things he says are kind of out there, but anyone other than Joe Biden.
The potential shift comes as Vice President Kamala Harris sees her approval rating on the downslide. A Fox News poll showing the Democrat losing support from her own party, hitting a new low among registered voters.
This is the spot where if they can get across, the Biden administration is going to parole them on into, they're not going to 42 them. They're going to parole the majority of them into, New Jersey, New York, Denver, Chicago. They're moving in all over the country.
We've seen new spots where people are crossing, groups of several hundred. There were 2,000 about 10 miles outside of town the other day, and it's probably where they're going to keep crossing. I think there's a rush to get in.
Every state is a border state, and it's about to get a whole lot worse when Title 42 ends today. Jeb Bradley is a New Hampshire state senator, Tim Gunn, an Arizona state rep, and John Snyder, a Florida state rep. All three join me now. Tim, let's begin with you. You're in an actual border state. How are you going to deal with what is about to happen in less than 24 hours when Title 42 is gone?
Well, yeah, we've already been inundated for the last 3.5 years with and so we are at our wits' end. We are at capacity on our NGOs, and so we're working together with the governor and with our local DPS, and just to try to mitigate the situation the best we can, and get them and keep processing and moving them out of our state, because we cannot handle them here in the state, and we're going to keep sending them with our own buses if the CBP can't control it, and moving them on out of the state to a town near you.
Jeb, the Title 42 expiration impacts our northern border, too. You share a border with Canada. What are you bracing for in the Granite State?
Well, good morning, Todd, and thanks for having me on. I mean, obviously, we've had a huge influx, percentage-wise, increase of people crossing the northern border illegally. We expect that to continue. I mean, the biggest problem that I think every state has experienced, on top of all the illegal immigrants that are coming in, is the fentanyl crisis and the human trafficking crisis. That's why every state is a border crisis. Fentanyl is leading to mental health problems, homelessness, and just an untold number of deaths that shouldn't happen. It's absolute incompetence of the Biden administration that they're willfully allowing this to happen.
John, let's hear from the two people leading us down this path. Watch.
Expand on what you meant when you said there will be chaos at the border. For how long?
Well, we've had chaos at the border for a number of years. We have to fully fund the border security efforts.
Let me be clear. The lifting of the Title 42 public health order does not mean our border is open.
John, does the border look open to you? And if so, what is your state doing to close it?
Yeah, well, unfortunately, the American people have seen on full display the total failure of the Biden border policies. They appointed Kamala Harris to be the border czar. She couldn't even make the trip there. And so what we're trying to do here as state legislatures is maximize every tool in our resource. And Governor DeSantis has called on us to pass the toughest immigration package in the nation. We just did that, the largest state to mandate E-Verify. And we're going to continue to make sure that if migrants come into our state, we will send them to the sanctuary cities that have given them pre-consent to come and live off of their taxpayers and not ours.
And the irony of all that, gentlemen, is that these sanctuary cities put themselves out there for the optics and said, hey, we're compassionate, we'll take you. And then when they're taken up on that offer, people like Eric Adams and former Mayor Lori Lightfoot say, oh, no, we can't handle this. We have to send them somewhere else. And that's why the topic of this discussion is every state in our union is about to become, if not already, a border state. And that is not what our founders intended. Jeb Bradley, Tim Dunn, John Snyder, best of luck dealing with this in your communities. Everybody needs to band together on this. We appreciate your time. Best of luck. Ash.
Okay, listen to this. Randy Weingarten is now encouraging teachers to erase or edit their social media posts by using an AI scrubbing tool that identifies potentially harmful posts. The teachers union boss tweeting, "Our union is here for you to help you future-proof your social media." The American Federation of Teachers Union has partnered with Life Brand for a 25% discount off the cost of the powerful tool that scans your social media to catch forgotten posts that may not reflect who you are today. If only they thought about that for everybody. Critics on Twitter mocking the teachers union boss, who has come under fire for past tweets. One person saying, make sure you delete all of those forgotten posts of when you fought to keep schools closed.
In other words, Randy Weingarten's like, let's destroy the evidence, and here's an app to do it.
Oh my, another thing with AI.
Yeah, there you go.
Actress Charlize Theron is threatening conservatives who are worried about drag bills in red states that are trying to keep children away from drag performances. We don't care what you do if you're not a kid. Like, that's your choice. But the kids, keep the kids away from it.
I love being threatened by a Hollywood actress with
violence.
The best. Oh, it's the best. Golf legend Tiger Woods will not play at this year's PGA Championship following surgery on his ankle after the Masters last month. Woods withdrew from the major after making the cut and struggling through cold, rainy conditions at Augusta National. Boy, it was tough to watch. It was bad to watch. The 15-time major champ, 15-time? I thought it was more than that, went under the knife just days after withdrawing from the Masters to address post-traumatic arthritis from the broken leg he suffered in that serious car accident back in February of 2021. The 2023 PGA Championship kicks off 1 week from today in upstate New York.
A liberal lawmaker in San Francisco